Hey mamas, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I want to talk to you about why you probably don't even need cervical exams to begin with and how you can know the station of your baby by just listening and watching your body. Because listen y'all, your body is pretty amazing and it tells you everything you need to know, which is why in most cases, we don't need these exams that tell us how dilated we are and what the station of the baby is. And while that may be helpful for you, keep in mind, cervical exams are not very comfortable. It causes you to kind of get out of your birth zone. You gotta sit down, you gotta spread wide, let them check, and it's just really uncomfortable. Trust me from experience and trust me from my clients, especially if you're trying to just kind of keep yourself in the zone. So I wanna just teach you how do we actually know the station of our baby without getting cervical exam. If you are new here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. This is part 3 of a series that we are talking about when it comes to dilation versus station. Now, if you have not checked out part 1 and part 2 of this video, they are linked in the description below. I would highly encourage you check those 2 videos out. They're very quick and to the point, but it's going to make a lot more sense when you watch this video, having the education and knowledge ahead of time. So make sure you check those out. So the simple solution and the simple answer to this is, how is your body moving? Your body is going to move in either one of 2 directions. It's either going to move front to back or it's going to move side to side. So I want to show you really quickly what that looks like so that you or your partner, most likely your partner, because you should be in your birth zone. You should not be trying to evaluate yourself because that's going to take you out of your birth zone. So this video is mostly for partners or support people. So mamas, know what they're looking for, but also make sure that they're watching this video with you and that you save this video so that you can keep this in mind, take note of this, so that your partner can kind of coach you through some of the positions that we talked about and movements that we talked about in part 2, what you need to be doing and when you need to be doing it. So let's actually talk through what that looks like in labor. Now, of course, there's a difference between early labor, active labor, transition, pushing. If you have not checked out my stages of labor video, I'm also going to link that below so you can understand early labor, active labor, transition, and the difference between the 3 of those phases of labor and understanding the stages. But also understand that within that, you can also kind of get an idea of the station of your baby and the phase of labor that you're in, just simply by how your body is moving and how your contraction pattern is. Again, we don't need to know how dilated you are to know whether or not you're in early labor or active labor. Your contractions are probably going to tell us that, okay? Your contraction pattern is going to tell us that, and of course that video is going to go through all of that. But we can also look at how your body is moving to know, is your baby in a negative station, aka floating, 0 station, aka mid-pelvis, starting to rotate, or a positive station where your baby's starting to exit. Again, positive 2 means that your body is most likely going to be pushing your baby out on its own. So if you are wanting that, make sure that you let your provider know that you would like to wait for your body to start pushing instead of trying to get a cervical exam and having somebody tell you that you're 10 centimeters and that you need to start pushing, when that could cause you to push for hours instead of just waiting for your baby to be at a positive 2 and pushing in 10 minutes. So hey, do your thing, to each his own, but I'm just trying to give you some advice to make it a little bit easier for you. So if your baby is at a negative station, aka floating, most likely your body's gonna be doing something like this, moving front to back, okay? Now, you could be 6 centimeters, you could be 2 centimeters. We don't know, we don't really care, because I just wanna know what your body is looking like when you're laboring, and that's gonna kind of give me an idea. Now, when your body is moving front to back, this is not because we're telling you, it's because naturally your body is moving front to back. Now, it may not look like that, but in general, you could be walking or you could be laboring, you could be in early labor, and you're just kind of doing like this during the contraction. You're like, now, if I walk in and I'm your doula and I see that, I'm like, okay, we're not super far, she's not feeling a ton of pressure yet, baby's probably at a negative station, okay? So partners, support people, look, watch her body. If her body is just naturally moving front to back without us telling her what to do, that means that baby's at a negative station, and then you guys can go back to part 2 of this series and figure out what positions we need to do to go ahead and open up the inlet of the pelvis. Now, once baby starts to move into the mid pelvis and get to closer to a 0 station, most likely she's going to start moving like this, left to right. As a doula, I'm going to just sit back and observe for a little bit. I'm gonna let her body just do what it wants to do, and then we'll start to coach on movements and positions. But if she's just naturally moving side to side, I'm like, okay, that's her body telling me it's trying to open up the pelvis. There's that uneven hip movement that we talked about in the last video in part 2. So now I know, okay, her body's naturally moving side to side. I don't need to tell her, but I do know what I can do to help her is get her to do some more uneven hip movements, okay? So keep that in mind when we're at a 0 station. Now, when we get to a positive station, of course, we're starting to feel more pressure, her contraction pattern as your baby descends, very likely that your contraction pattern is also starting to get closer together, meaning that there's less time between contractions and your contractions could start to become longer as your baby descends. So if we get to a positive station and your baby needs you to go ahead and start to open up the outlet of the pelvis, your body will actually start moving naturally in this front to back position again. Now, don't confuse baby being in a negative station with baby being in a positive station. There will be a very distinct difference. As you may know, mama's probably going to have a different demeanor when her baby is up here and not putting a ton of pressure on her cervix versus when the baby's putting a ton of pressure on her cervix and baby's like almost out of her pelvis. She's gonna feel a lot more pressure at this point and not as much pressure up here. So keep in mind that the major differences between baby being at a negative station and baby being at a positive station is going to be demeanor, how much focus she needs, contraction pattern, right? In the negative station, it's possible that her contractions could be spread out a little bit more. She may have 6, 7 minutes, 5 minutes. But when she gets to a positive station, contractions may be coming every 3 minutes and they may be lasting a little bit longer. And she's having to spend a lot more time and energy focused because she's most likely entering into transition. So naturally her body could start just moving front to back because this is her body's way of trying to eject the baby. Okay, so in a positive station, of course, keep in mind contraction pattern, demeanor, pressure, all of those things. Now we're trying to help baby exit the pelvis, and that's where the knees and ankles out situation comes into play. So make sure you also take note of those positions. As complicated as birth can seem for some of us, it's actually very simple, and we can look at it and we can make it very simple, but we have to understand our bodies. This is obviously just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to positioning and comes to movements when it comes to labor. But if you want a full scope of education when it comes to how to move, how to breathe, how to prepare your mind, how to prepare your body, how to create a really strong birth plan, and everything around stations and how to advocate for this in your labor experience, make sure that you check out my full childbirth education class, which is linked in the description below. It is all online, all self-paced. You can go through it with your partner. Make sure to check that out below. You can join at any point, and there are options to do virtual coaching calls with me to be able to have that virtual doula opportunity and virtual doula coaching. Hope this video was helpful, y'all. Again, this is ultimately your choice, but I want you to be empowered with the education to make the informed decisions that you want for your birth and for your baby. Again, you deserve to have the most empowered and beautiful and fearless birth experience that exists, but you need to prepare for it. So I hope this education helps. See y'all on the next video.